Hello. How to never feel lonely again? What if I told you that you could get rid of loneliness and even enjoy your time alone and attract better relationships in the process? Well, if you're interested in this, stay tuned because I'm going to teach you two practices that will help you achieve this result. I'll teach you the first practice in this video and the second practice in a different video called part 2 in the same series. So loneliness, it usually feels like a big void in your chest, a big pain, a big emptiness that you would do anything to get rid of. It is usually described a lot as emptiness, but if you have a different experience, please, you can share in the comments. And this is something I actually experienced myself many years ago when I moved alone in a foreign city and country at 17, well, permanently at 18. And I had no friends and family nearby. And on top of that, I only had a primary school level. And I was trying to get myself some education. And especially I was trying to go from one job to the next to make sure I was getting by because I was mostly estranged from my family and I wouldn't have considered asking my parents for help in any case. So it was already a situation in which I didn't have much space for friendships. And when I was trying to make friends, I found that they already had their group of friends and family nearby, so it seems that I was less important to them than they were to me. And I did make friends eventually, but they seemed to have an anchor that I didn't have. You know, this kind of anchor that you have that is usually provided by having family nearby, for example. So I was investing a bit too much in casual friendships and colleagues, and it could be hurtful at times because I didn't have that anchor. And it took me years to figure out what I'm going to share with you today. Once I figured out, it changed everything. So I became able to have my own anchor without the need for anyone to provide it for me. I was able to attract better relationships because I would do it from a place of desiring connection, not from a place of need. And also it freed up so much energy and motivation for my goals and projects. Because let's face it, loneliness, it takes a lot of bandwidth, takes a lot of energy, and it clouds your judgment. You don't think the same as if you weren't lonely. And when I started to share these techniques with some of my coaching clients, it changed everything for them as well. They also felt like they could attract better relationships, and they also felt like they could enjoy their time alone more, and they could have more ambition, basically, project themselves in the future more, because they had more focus and they had more availability, more bandwidth to deal with that. I hope it does the same for you or something similar. So before starting with the first technique, don't get me wrong, I'm not diminishing at all the value of connection, the value of having loved ones, having support, having people who you can share your challenges and successes with. This is a blessing, really. There is no method that is going to remove the desire for connection, and the desire for connection is completely normal. And I have a video actually about the different types of loneliness, and which is basically the different desires for connection that you can have. there's so much advice on the internet that tells you how to meet people, how to break the ice and things like that, so I'm not going to talk about that. The goal of these practices is to remove the emptiness, the pain, the despair, the isolation that makes you sometimes settle for someone who's not a great match for you, but you just can't stay on your own. This is just too painful to stay on your own. You don't feel good, so you're going to settle. So that's a sad thing, and I've seen that so many times. Many years ago, there's a woman I knew, and she was trying to meet someone, and one day she met a guy. She said she met a guy a few times, and I said, how did it go? And she said, oh, he's boring, he's not my type, and he has no conversation. Okay, so it didn't go too well. But a few months down the road, she said that she got married with him, and after 1 year she got a child with him, and she was really unhappy. I still had some talk with her several years down the line, and she was quite unhappy, and she said, what could I do? I had to settle and find someone. So it's a choice, obviously, but people forget sometimes that spending your days and nights for years to come with someone you don't love, this is not fun. This is not something to be jealous of at all. And this is compromising with your own heart, betraying yourself. I prefer by far following my heart and not getting stuck with someone I don't love for days and nights, for years to come. Also preventing them to find someone who really loves them. So I respect your view if you see things differently, but in my view, trying to break loneliness by settling with someone, this is just a band-aid. But why is loneliness so painful in the first place? Let's jump into the first practice. So if you could take a notebook or whatever you want to write on, a document, a Word document. Most of the time I found that loneliness is so painful because you make it mean something about you. If you're lonely, it means you're something. You're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not handsome enough, you're not smart enough, you're not successful enough. You often make it mean something about you or your value as a person. So if you're really committed to go further and find a solution to this pain because you can't stand it anymore, please try to do this exercise. You have nothing to lose, only everything to gain. And write down the answers to the following questions. I'm going to put together a PDF and I'll put in the description how to get it. So check out that if you prefer to have it written. So the first set of questions is, why do you think you're lonely? Maybe the answers that come up are really practical, such as, I'm lonely because I just arrived in this city or country, or because I spent all my work time working. Or I'm lonely because I find myself in an environment that doesn't correspond to me at all. There are things I'm interested in or things I like doing on my own, and I don't find anyone interested in that. That's a possible reason. Or I'm lonely because I never want to be completely integrated in one group. I prefer to be a little bit in several groups. Like at work, oftentimes there are little groups. When you study, oftentimes there are little groups that form automatically. And you may not want to stick to one group. You may prefer to have several groups. So that may be a practical response like that. But I still suggest that you go a little further and that you ask, what it means about you as a person if you really take what comes to mind. What does it mean about you as a person that you're lonely? You're lonely because you're too much something or not good enough for something. You're too shy or you're not successful enough. So if you think you're missing something, you're too much or you're not enough, there are only two choices. Either you change it or you own it. So what I can suggest is to check if there are people worse than you in that quality, in what you're missing, who are not lonely. If you think you're lonely because you're not good looking enough, a good question to ask yourself is, are there people who are less good looking than me and still they are not isolated at all from others? They have many friends. If you think you're lonely because you're not successful enough, can you think of people who are even less successful than you are and still they're surrounded by people who love them? If you find it's the case, then chances are you're not lonely because of that missing quality. And what kind of person do you think is lonely? Someone who doesn't have any social skills, someone who has a weird look. Do you judge people who are lonely? Are they losers to you? I'm just giving you examples, but you can write what's true for you. Okay, now second set of questions. What does it mean about your life to be lonely? Does loneliness keep you from doing anything, being anything, having anything? What is the consequence of being lonely on your life? For example, I'm lonely, so I'm gonna be a failure in life. I'm lonely, so I don't do such activity, which would be important to me, which I'd like to do, but I'm not doing it because I'm lonely. So the first set of questions is more figuring out why you think you're lonely. You're lonely because of something. And the second set of questions is more about the consequences of being lonely. I'm lonely, so I can't do this, I cannot do this, I cannot be that, I cannot have that. So seriously, don't overthink this. Just write what comes to mind. It's going to be processing in your mind, and tomorrow you can write some more. And you may pause the video now if you have more journaling to do. Share some of your findings in the comments, and you may find that other people have a similar experience, and you may learn from other people's experiences. So if you've been able to do that exercise, that's a really good job. So the next step is to proceed with the next video, which is called 2 Techniques to Never Feel Lonely Again, part 2. And you will learn that the disconnection is not only from others, but especially from yourself. And that's the emptiness you feel, and that nobody's ever going to fulfill. And if you give it a chance and you practice it every day for a month at least, you will see that things are shifting, and things can shift sometimes very fast, and you're going to enjoy your time more, your time alone more, and you're going to attract better relationships that are a better match for you. So as a recap, we've seen that loneliness produces very tangible feelings of sadness and emptiness, even despair, disconnection. And it can slow down your ambitions, it can slow down your projects because it takes so much bandwidth, it can cloud your judgment, and it can push you into unfulfilling relationships, both for friendships and for romantic relationships anyway. And we've seen that loneliness is very different from the desire for connection. The desire for connection, totally normal. We don't try to change it. This is normal. We are social animals. But the loneliness with all the painful feelings of emptiness and despair and all of that, this you don't have to put up with it. And that's why we presented these two techniques. Well, I presented the first one. So the first one was a mental process to see exactly what loneliness means about you, what you make it mean about you as a person, and what are the consequences about your life and things like that. And that's a journaling exercise that you can come back to. The second practice is in the next video in the series, and it allows you to reconnect with yourself, and it allows you to approach relationships from a place of playfulness and desire rather than from a place of need. So I encourage you to go to the second video in order to see a real shift. Please do it at least every day for a month. You might see a shift much before, but it's important to do it regularly. And if you resonated with this video, just like and subscribe for more insights into how to be more intentional with your life and how to get more juice out of life. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.